Virgo, there are ordinary days that turn out not to have been ordinary at all. That looked from the outside like any other, same sky, same routine, same sequence of unremarkable moments, but that contained somewhere in their texture the hinge. The thing everything after turned on. If today feels like it might be one of those days, if something in the quality of right now feels charged in a way you can't quite explain, then maybe the new world isn't coming. Maybe it's already here, waiting for you to walk into it. Something is ending. You can feel it. Not dramatically, not with the obvious weight of a door slamming shut or a chapter clearly concluding. More quietly than that. More like the specific quality of the last few pages of something where you can feel the ending approaching in the texture of things even before it arrives, where certain moments have a particular quality of finality to them that you recognize without being able to fully articulate, where the version of your life that has been the current version starts to feel almost imperceptibly but genuinely like the former version. And simultaneous with that ending braided through it, inseparable from it, something is beginning. The new world, not out there somewhere. Not in a future that requires time and circumstances and external arrangements to arrive. In here, in the specific internal shift that happens when the ending becomes real enough to feel and the beginning becomes real enough to lean toward, in the charged space between what was and what's coming, in the particular quality of right now, this day, this moment, this specific threshold you're standing at that feels unlike the ordinary days that preceded it. Um, the new world always starts here. That's the thing nobody quite prepares you for. You imagine it arriving from outside, a circumstance that changes, a door that opens, a shift in the external arrangement of your life that signals the beginning of something different. And sometimes it does arrive that way. Sometimes the external thing happens first and the internal catches up. But the new worlds that actually change a life, that go all the way down, that transform not just the circumstances, but the texture of how you move through existence, those always start internally. In a shift in how you see, in a change in what you believe is possible, in the quiet, private, enormously significant moment when you decide, without announcement, without external validation, that the version of yourself that existed in the old world is not the version that will exist in the new one. So let's talk about where you actually are right now. Not where you'll be, not where you're going, where you are. Because the threshold, this specific charged between worlds place, has its own particular quality, its own discomforts, its own strange beauty. And most people rush through it as fast as possible, treating it as the necessary inconvenience between the old thing and the new one, rather than as something worth inhabiting and worth understanding, worth being fully present to before it passes. You're between worlds right now. That's the honest description of it. Not yet in the new one, not fully, not in all the ways it will eventually be real, but no longer fully in the old one either. Something has shifted enough that going back feels different now. Not impossible necessarily, but different. Like trying to return to a room. You've left the room is the same, but you're not. And the difference between you and the room creates a friction that wasn't there before. And that friction, that specific uncomfortable friction of no longer quite fitting where you used to fit, is not a problem. It's information. It's the feeling of having grown in a direction that your current context hasn't caught up to yet, of being in some essential way ahead of the life you're currently living. Not better than it, not above it, just past it, in the specific way that people are past things they've genuinely learned from and genuinely moved through. Not finished, never completely finished, but genuinely past. And the between world space is where that pastness becomes undeniable, where the old world can't quite hold you the way it used to, and the new world hasn't yet taken its full shape. And being there, really being there, without rushing through toward resolution, requires a particular kind of courage. The courage to be genuinely uncertain, to not know yet exactly what the new world looks like, to stand at the threshold without having the full picture of what's on the other side, and to do that without immediately reaching for something to make the uncertainty more manageable, without collapsing back into the old world because at least it's known, without forcing the new one into a premature shape because the not yet knowing is uncomfortable. Because the new world, the real one, the one that will actually change things, is taking its shape in the space of your genuine presence here, in the threshold, in the honest, unmanaged, fully inhabited quality of being exactly where you are right now without pretending it's more resolved than it is. And rushing it, forcing it into a shape before it's ready, produces something smaller than what would have emerged if you'd stayed in the uncertainty long enough for the real thing to form. Now, here's what blowing your mind actually means. Not the dramatic version, not the sudden, overwhelming revelation that reorganizes everything in an instant. The real version, the one that happens in the body before it happens in the understanding. Something that you believed was fixed turns out to be movable. Something that you held as certain about yourself, about what's possible for you, about the limits of what's available in your particular life, reveals itself in a specific moment to be a belief rather than a fact. And beliefs, unlike facts, can change, can be questioned, can be held up to the light and examined and found to be less solid than they felt when they were just assumed rather than scrutinized. That moment, the moment of a belief revealing itself as a belief, is the mind-blowing, not because the new information is necessarily dramatic, but because the implications of it are, because if that thing that fixed, certain, this is just how it is thing, turns out to have been movable all along, then other things might be too. And that possibility, the radical, quietly devastating, enormously liberating possibility that more of what felt fixed was actually movable, is what reorganizes a life. Not the dramatic revelation, the permission it implies, the specific, profound, life-changing permission of realizing that more of your life than you thought was open, that the walls you've been navigating around were not structural features of reality, but stories, solidified beliefs, the accumulated weight of things you were told or experienced or concluded in specific moments under specific circumstances that got generalized into just how things are. And the new world, the whole new world that's about to become real, is the life that exists on the other side of those walls, being recognized as stories, not as cruelties to be blamed on anyone or anything, not as evidence that you were naive or wrong to have believed them, but as the natural accumulation of a particular kind of consciousness that is now in this threshold, in this between world space, ready to see more clearly. Now, here's what you bring into the new world, because there's a version of this narrative that implies starting over, erasing everything, beginning fresh, leaving the old self entirely behind. And that version, however appealing in certain moments, isn't quite accurate and not quite honest. You don't enter the new world empty. You enter it carrying everything you've survived. Everything you've learned, not from books, not from theories, but from the specific, embodied, costly education of actually living through things. From the relationships that taught you what you need and what you won't accept, from the failures that showed you your actual edges, from the times you held yourself together through things that could have broken you, from the quiet, unglamorous, unwitnessed moments of continuing, just continuing, when continuing was genuinely difficult. All of that comes with you. And in the new world, in the context of a life that's no longer organized around the old beliefs, the old limitations, the old stories about what's available to you, all of that takes on a different quality, becomes something different than it was in the old context, becomes not the evidence of a difficult past, but the foundation of a specific, hard-earned, genuinely yours capacity for the new thing. The thing that can only exist in someone who has been through exactly what you've been through, who has survived exactly what you've survived, who has become, through the specific education of your particular life, precisely the person capable of inhabiting this new world in the way it needs to be inhabited. Nothing was wasted. That's what the new world shows you about the old one. Nothing that seemed like loss or detour or failure or simply too much time in a difficult place was actually wasted. It was all building, even when it didn't feel like building, even when it felt like the opposite, like being taken apart rather than assembled. Even in those moments, especially in those moments, something was being made in you for this. And preparation, the real preparation for the new world, isn't about accumulating more resources, more readiness, more of whatever you think you're currently lacking. The real preparation is about releasing, about letting go of the things that belong to the old world and won't serve in the new one, the identities that were built for survival in circumstances that no longer exist, the defensive postures that made sense when there was something specific to defend against, but that now just prevent the kind of openness the new world requires. The beliefs that were conclusions from old data, from moments that may have been true once, but that you've been generalizing into your current reality long past their expiration. The preparation is the releasing. And it doesn't happen all at once. It happens in moments in the threshold, in the between worlds space where you notice something you've been carrying and recognize with the honest eyes of someone who is genuinely changing, that it doesn't belong in the new world, that it was built for something that is ending, and that bringing it forward would be like carrying furniture from a demolished house into a new one, familiar, maybe comforting in a certain way, but ultimately wrong for the new space, taking up room that something better could occupy. And readiness, the specific question of whether you're ready, whether the new world is something you're prepared to actually enter rather than just approach, just circle, just stand at the threshold of without quite committing to crossing. Nobody is ready in the absolute sense. That's the honest answer. Nobody arrives at the new world fully assembled, all fears resolved, all resistances dissolved, all the old patterns completely cleared. That version of readiness doesn't exist. The people who enter new worlds, who actually cross the threshold rather than perpetually standing at it, do so while still carrying some of the old while still partially uncertain, while still feeling the pull back toward the familiar even as they move away from it. Uh, Readiness isn't the absence of fear or uncertainty or the remnants of the old world. Readiness is the decision made in the body, not just the mind, that you will not go back, that whatever is in the new world, however unknown, however requiring of you things you're not yet sure you have, is more aligned with who you actually are than what's in the old one. That the friction of the threshold, uncomfortable as it is preferable to the friction of continuing in a context that no longer fits. That you are imperfectly, incompletely, but genuinely and irreversibly done with the version of your life that belongs to the old world. That decision, quiet, private, not requiring any external confirmation, is the crossing. That's the moment the threshold is actually passed, not when the external circumstances align perfectly, not when you feel completely certain or completely ready, but when something in you, the deepest, most honest, most body level part, makes its irreversible decision that the new world is where you live now. And the new world, this is the thing worth saying most clearly, is not waiting for Saturday, is not waiting for a particular date or alignment or external signal to become real. It's already here. It already exists. In this moment, in this specific quality of threshold awareness you're in right now, in the decision that may already have been made somewhere in you quietly, without announcement that you're done living in the old one. The new world is the changed eyes, the seeing differently, the moment when you look at your own life, at what you've been accepting, at what you've been telling yourself, at the version of possible you've been operating within, and you see it clearly for the first time, not with judgment, with clarity, the specific, honest, undefended clarity of someone who has stood back far enough from the painting to finally see what's actually there. And what you see there in that honest view is both harder and better than you expected. Harder because some things you hoped were fine turn out, under clear examination, to need changing. Better because some things you'd undervalued, qualities in yourself, possibilities in your life, depths in what's available to you, turn out, when seen clearly, to be more significant than you'd allowed. The new world shows you both, the hard and the better, the things that need to change and the things that were always worth more than you gave them. And it shows you them simultaneously, not as contradiction, but as the complete, honest, full spectrum view of a life that has been partially obscured by the accumulated weight of old beliefs and old stories, and the specific myopia of being too close to the painting for too long. You're at the threshold right now, in this specific moment, in the particular quality of this day, charged, uncertain, between worlds, that feels unlike the ordinary days that came before it. The new world is on the other side of the seeing, on the other side of the honest, clear, distance calibrated view of what's actually there and what it actually needs and who you actually are, when the old context stops shaping you toward the habitual version. It's already here. Waiting not for the circumstances to change, waiting for you. The genuine, decided, irreversibly moved forward you to walk into it. Not tomorrow. Not when things align. Not when you feel ready in the absolute sense that nobody ever feels. Now, in this moment, in this threshold, in this specific quality of between worlds, that feels, if you let it be what it actually is, like the beginning of everything that comes after. The new world is here. You are already in it more than you know, more than the old world ever let you believe. Welcome to the whole new world that was always waiting for you to arrive